Hi, in this session I'm going to show you how to create an invoice. And let's say you are selling some items and you wanted to create an invoice for your customers, and you had situations where when you entered in the quantity of an item you wanted to pick from a list of items that you had. Maybe you had a set amount of items, 10 to 20 different types, and when you selected that, the price would automatically come up, and when you enter in quantity, and it would automatically calculate that quantity and also calculate the total and whatever sales tax that you had and give you a grand total that you would give to your customer. And this would show up, and you can print it out. Eventually you can print it out into this type of form in one page, 8.5 by 11 form, and give it to your customer. So let's go ahead and see how we can create that. Now, the key to creating these type of forms is before you do any of the formatting, do all the nice colors and font changes and formulas, is to set your text in the appropriate locations. So what I've done is basically I've just copied all of this and put it into another sheet, and it just doesn't have any formatting at all. And what this does is it gives you a space to place it where you want to place it before you do a lot of the fancy formatting, because once you do the formatting, you might go back and change the way that the text is, and you always want to put your text in the place where it's most appropriate before you do any formatting, because you'll find that once you do some formatting you might think that the placement of the text is not in the correct location and you have to adjust it and do formatting again. So it's always best to do your text placement before you do any formatting. So what we're going to do is, now since we just have our text here, we are going to format it. So this is just all plain text right now. There's no formulas or anything here. So what I'm going to do is, first we want to know how we can get that nice white background instead of having these grid lines. So what we do first is we want to select the areas where we want to provide that nice white background. So if we looked at our previous example here, pretty much the whole thing, that whole space, was all this nice white background. And so what we want to do is we want to change the grid line colors. So I'm going to select the area that this form is going to encompass and press Control 1 to bring up the format cells. And when the style doesn't really matter, I'm just going to stay with the default style. The color is what is key. We want to change that to a white color. Change that to a white color, and we want to have all the cells change from gray to white. So I'm just going to go ahead and click inside and outline. You can see that now the border boxes are selected. That just means that it is selected for those lines. Now if we click another color, let's say for example black, and we select the outline, you'll see that it shows it up here. But since we selected white, it seems like it's not selected, but it is, because basically it's white. So once I click OK, you'll see that all the grid line colors are gone. So now we can start to do some of the formatting that we wanted. So we can select here that invoice that was blue, and we can go under cell styles, or you can just paint it whatever color you want. I kind of like the cell styles here. I'm just going to give it the accent here. And what we notice also, since we had originally selected white for our border colors, the borders in between here have turned white. So I'm going to turn those off. I'm going to select that and go and press Control 1 to bring back the format cells. Let's select our color. Maybe it was this color. Blue accent 1. Yes, blue accent 1. And just select that. Now it's changed. Now you can see the color is different. I can probably increase the font size here a little bit. I think I had it at 18. Double click it to increase the size here. See how this is cut off here? I'll probably double click here to increase that size. So this part was all white, so I didn't have to worry about that. This part, there was a gray background, so I'm going to select that, and I'm going to give it there's none here, so I'm just going to go select it from here, and I'm going to choose the white background 1 there, and then also get rid of these lines here. Whoops, I unselected that. Control 1 here, and let's go back to the gray here. We're going to select that gray and select the middle part, and so it's going to get rid of those lines. So now those are gone. So now I also want to have the dark lines for here, the border lines for here. So I'm going to select that area, and since the default is black lines, I can just go ahead and go under here, the borders, and just select all borders. And I can probably do the same here for all borders, and this one all borders. And see how the text is cut off here? I can probably just increase the column size there. And let's see, I think I wanted this one. I just wanted the border all around it. I don't want it in between. I just want it all around. So I'm going to select these two, and I'm just going to select the outside borders. Alright, so it's got that, and I wanted that to be a little bit of shade of red, so I'm going to go and not that red. Maybe if I go to cell styles, this is the accent. Maybe I'll give it just an orange accent. Accent 6. And now I want to get rid of that line there, right? So I select that, Control 1, and try to find that orange color. I think it was this color. Orange accent 6, and then just tick that. Now that color shows up there, so that color should be, that border should blend in. And now this one, I want to change that to red and also center it. So what I want to do is select my selection first, alright, and then I press Control 1. In the alignment tab, go horizontal, center across selection, and click OK. So what it does is it centers it across the selection that you had. If I did a merge, and I'll show you what happens with merge right now. If I did a merge, what it's going to do, it's going to merge all these cells into one. So for example, in the previous, I had this all, you see this is all C, D, E, but you don't see the lines. You don't see the lines. But if you go here, you see, oops, if you go here, you see the lines right here, right? If I go over here, I'll still see the border here for each cell. Now if I do a merge and center, if I select this and I do a merge and center, you can see it's all in one cell now, in a way. So that's what merge and center does, and that's the difference between centering across the selection. It just centers it across it, but keeps the cells intact, whereas merge and center merges all the cells together into one. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same here. Merge and center, merge and center. And now I have pretty much my format for it. And this invoice date, this is the way that Excel sees dates. It sees it as numbers, and between the period is, on the left of it is the days, and on the right of it is the seconds in a day. So for example, this number actually represents September 3rd, 2012. So what we want to do is probably just change that to a date format. Right? Here you can enter in the invoice number, whatever invoice number you like to provide. So all I want to do is also kind of copy the formatting here to these other cells here. So what I can actually do is I can just select this row and click on the format painter and just apply it here. And you can see it just copied all the formatting. So you don't have to keep going down each line to do the merge and center. It does it all for you. And I actually don't need this cell, this portion here, so I'm going to go ahead and take it off. I'm going to do Control 1, and I'm going to go back into the border here, go to white, and what I want to do is I want to get rid of the, I want to turn the borders in between white, and then the ones at the bottom, and also the ones to the right, that one, left, white. So if I click OK, pretty much it should have taken care of that. You can see now all those are really just white borderline cells. So where do I get that drop down? That drop down is going to come from a named range. So basically what it means is I would just select a range of cells and give it a name. So for example, I selected this cell and it has a prod name 1. Let's go ahead and show you how to do that. Let me just go and delete this name range first, and I'll go under the name manager and I'll just go ahead and delete prod name from there. Yes. Click close. There's a couple ways you can do it, but the easiest way you can probably create a name range is just select your range of cells, and up here and go, I'm just going to type prod name. So now basically it has selected, this selection of cells is called prod name. So if I go back to the name manager and I select prod name, you can see that it refers to cell A2 to A10. And that is how you select or create a named range. So how do we get that drop down capability? So since I copied this over, it's called widget 1, widget 2. I'm going to delete that because that was from the old That was from this one. Actually, for our new one, we called it pname1, pname2, pname3. So based off of the named range that I created, I can actually go back and do a data validation for that name range. The data validation feature is under the data tab, under data validation. You click data validation here, and I want to create a data validation based on a list. So that list, the source is going to come from that named range I created, prod name. I can either, if I remember, I can just type equal prod name, or I can just press the F3 key, and that's going to bring up the paste name function. And I want prod name. Click OK. Click OK, and then I can select it. It'll be product name 1, 2, or 3. Pname 1, 2, and 3. Pname 2. I can just do it pname 1, pname 2, and then maybe just pname 3. You can see the selections available here too. Now, how do I get the price to come over automatically? Well, that's going to be a VLOOKUP. So what I want to do is create a VLOOKUP for that product name. If it sees that product name 1, bring back $10. Product name 2, 3, bring back the respective prices. So it's a VLOOKUP. So I'm going to go ahead and type equals VLOOKUP and just tab to complete that. Look up this name under this table, the table array, which is here, and comma, and the column index number is which column do we want to bring back. I want to bring back the second column, 1, 2, second column, and I want it to have a exact match. So false is 0. You can either type false or the number 0. So we'll type false here. And now it's 10, 20, 30, right? So 10, product name 2. If we go ahead and just click on the fill handle here and bring it down, you'll see 10, 20, 30. Oh, but now we have this NA, but that's kind of irritating. So what we can do is we can say here, if there's an error there, bring back blank. If not, bring back the price. So what we can do is type an if statement. So I type if this lookup comes back with an error, and that you can use the isError function. If that results in an error, then 2 double quotes, basically give me a blank. If this is true, give me a blank. If not, then I want you to do the VLOOKUP XL. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy that, Control C, and then Control V to paste, and then close parentheses and press enter. Whoops, what did we do? Oh, we needed another parentheses here. Alright, then enter. Oh, Excel also said we needed another parentheses at the end, so it was smart enough to figure that one out. Click yes, and I can go ahead and just drag that and copy it down, and now it's blank. So it doesn't, when it sees that there's a result, it doesn't find anything and it results in an error, it will be a blank. And what about here where it automatically calculates the price? Well, that's basically a formula, so I can just say, since it gave this amount since I copied it over, I can just say here equals the quantity, that's just a shift 8 to get that multiplication symbol, times the price, and then press enter. Now if I try to copy this down, you see I have also the same thing here. Now I also want to create kind of an if statement to say, okay, if it's blank over here, then make it blank. Don't do the formula. If there's a number here, then go ahead with the formula. So basically I'll start off here. Actually, what I can do is this little neat little trick. If I can select this first cell and drag it down, so I just made the whole selection, but this one's the active one. So here what I can do is I can create an if statement. If this cell is blank. Okay, so there's a is blank statement. Is blank. If this cell is blank, and I'll click that cell, close parentheses. If that cell is blank, then 2 quotations, blank. Otherwise, then multiply B17, the quantity, times the price. And go ahead and press Control Enter. And when you press Control Enter, it will create it will go ahead and put the formula in there, now in cell I-17 and also in I-18, I-19, everything. But if you just press enter, it's just going to put it in that cell. So I press Control Enter, and it will activate this formula for all the cells. We found an error in the formula, so what I did was I forgot to put the closing parentheses there. But Excel figured it out. Click yes, and boom, there we have it. So now I can just say, oh, okay, now it's pretty much done. Now I can just kind of verify, right? Oh, wait, we still have our subtotal. So this subtotal formula is basically equals the sum of this area here, right? Oops, press escape. It's going to be the sum of this area. I select I-17, I-20, close parentheses, press enter, and the tax is going to equal the sum, this subtotal here, Shift 8, for the multiplication times the sales tax here. So that, and then I can just press enter because actually Excel's smart enough to figure that part out. And then this is the sum of these two. So go ahead and equal sum, and then just select those two cells, close parentheses, press enter, and there you go. And for this I can actually just do some formatting. Maybe I want to have that centered. And now I can just go ahead and test my other selections here. If I select P1, and since it's, let's see, well, maybe I'll say 1, press enter. Ah, the value didn't show up. So I can see what happens. So what happens is, this is actually a very common error. This is actually a very common error. So look at the VLOOKUP here. So the VLOOKUP is looking at A2, B4, which is A2 to B4. But when I copied it down here, it moved it up to A3, B5. So it went to A3, B5. So what happens is that when you copy it down, when you copy this formula down, the cells shift relative to the next cell. And this is very common in Excel. What you want to do is you want to make them a absolute cell reference. So when it copies down, it keeps A2 to B4 constantly instead of shifting it A2 to B5 and then maybe go A3 to B6. So what I need to do is when I click here, press the F4 keys that have the dollar signs in front of the letter and the number. You can see that? I want to have it for both instances. Do the same thing here, do the same thing here, press Control Enter to stay in the same cell, and once I copy that down, you'll see now when I look at the next cell, that's the same, and that's the same. So the same thing is probably happening here, where actually this, in here I don't really need to worry about it because when I copy it down, I want it to reflect B17 times H17. I want to reflect that row. I want to reflect that row B18 times H18, and the same for this row and this row. But on this row, since I'm doing a VLOOKUP, I want that lookup table to stay the same. I want it always to look up that table, right? So that's what the VLOOKUP is. And I'll have links to my other videos that show how to use VLOOKUP in this video, so you can see how the VLOOKUP function works. But this is how you can create an invoice. And you can see in the print preview, it's we're missing our invoice up here, but that's probably a formatting issue with Excel. We can see it up here. Oh, what's happening now is it's moved it off to the side here. So you see that dotted line? That means it's going to print on the next page. We can indicate this is the print area. Select that, and go to File, and go to Print. And let's see. What we can do is adjust some of the margins. So sometimes we have to do a little bit of formatting with the margins. Maybe we want narrow margins. If we have narrow margins, then we show it up a little bit better. Click on Home and see now the dotted line, it indicates where the margins are for the printing. And so now we can look at it and adjust it and see, okay, here we are. Here's our invoice, company name, so to, etc. And that gives us our invoice. So this was a little bit longer than I expected, but I hope this helps. Thanks for watching.